Hello, I'm Henry Keane and we are UATV English. We give you the Ukrainian perspective of reality in return by watching this very episode. You help us fighting off Russian aggression. Please comment and subscribe to our channel while watching it. It really helps us indeed. Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Welcome to the News Bulls. Russia's on fire almost every day now. Here's what happened this time. Drones hit the Murom instrument production plant in Russia's Vladimir region. This factory produced equipment for the Russian army and is under international sanctions. According to the OSINT community, the explosions directly struck the plant's territory. The plant is part of Russia's defense industry and produces military equipment. Its main clients are Russian state agencies, including Rosatom. It makes explosive devices for military aviation and navy, ignition primers for weapons and initiation systems for various purposes, including military. Since 2023, the plant has been under sanctions from Ukraine and the EU, and previous drone attack on this plant happened on April 30, 2025. In total, Russia's defense ministry reported that air defenses shot down 99 drones on Monday evening and overnight into Tuesday. Ukrainian military aviation carried out precision strikes on Russian intelligence facility in the Belgorod region, causing serious damage to FSB officers. Pilots of Ukraine's air forces used the MiG-29 fighter jet to drop two high-precision French air-some Hammer bombs on a building housing Russian security forces in the village of Gloltovo. The strike destroyed the roof and part of the building's upper floors. A reconnaissance drone accompanied the operation and recorded a direct hit. According to the OSINT sources, the building was located about 5 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. It may very likely have also housed personnel from Russia's border service, which is controlled by FSB. A Ukrainian guerrilla group sabotaged a key railway line in Russia's Tula region, targeting logistics used to supply troops in the Kursk area. They set fire to a relay cabinet that controlled track switches, causing disruptions in automated train routing systems. The operation, claimed by the Atesh guerrilla group, aimed to disrupt the transportation of petrol, ammunition and military equipment to the front lines. As a result, critical freight traffic faced serious delays.
Every delayed fuel tank, every disrupted train with ammunition directly affects the combat capability and supply of Russian troops. All this delays the transfer of reserves and complicates the organization of new offensive operations. From the Atesh Telegram post.
These strikes are part of a broader Ukrainian asymmetrical response strategy to hurt the Russian military complex as hard as possible before they accumulate enough power to threaten our neighbors, and this threat is becoming more real in the coming years, according to the head of the Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Chief. Russia could be ready to launch a new military campaign against Europe within 2 to 4 years after the war in Ukraine stops, according to Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Chief Oleg Ivashchenko. In an interview with Ukrinform, he warned that if international sanctions are lifted, Russia's rearmament process would accelerate significantly. Kyiv has shared these assessments with European allies, aligning with previous estimates of Western officials concerned about a potential NATO-Russia conflict following the end of full-scale hostilities in Ukraine.
They are forming a new Leningrad military district. It's not for defense, it's for offense. Our analysts no longer ask if Russia will attack another country. The question is when and from where. Russia could be ready for new aggression in 2 to 4 years after the war ends, sooner if sanctions are lifted. Oleg Ivashchenko, chief of Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Service, in an interview with Ukrinform.
While Russia continues to suffer major losses in Ukraine, U.S. European Command Chief General Christopher Cavalli recently noted that Moscow is replenishing its military potential way faster than expected. Ukraine's military claims nearly 1 million Russian personnel have been killed in action, wounded or otherwise removed from combat since the war began. In the wake of a third consecutive Russian missile barrage in Ukraine, Donald Trump remarked, "I don't know what the hell happened to Putin," reflecting growing discontent with the Kremlin sanctions. US President Trump is reportedly considering a new round of sanctions against Russia as early as this week, already frustrated by continued Russian attacks on Ukraine and the lack of progress in peace negotiations. The Wall Street Journal reports on that on May 27th, citing sources in Washington. While potential sanctions may not include the new restrictions on Russia's banking sector, other measures are being discussed to pressure Putin into accepting a ceasefire, finally a 30 days pause in hostilities. However, sources also say Trump may choose to hold off on new sanctions altogether. President Trump has made it clear he wants to reach a negotiated peace deal, but he also keeping all options open. End of quote, says White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt in a statement to the Wall Street Journal.
President Trump has made it clear he wants to reach a negotiated peace deal, but he's also keeping all options open. Caroline Leavitt, White House Press Secretary, in a statement to the Wall Street Journal.
According to the insiders, Trump is growing wary of the diplomatic stalemate and may abandon negotiations if the current diplomatic push just fails. His reluctance to criticize Putin, though, for rejecting a ceasefire stems from the three key factors. As previously reported, Trump and Putin held a 2-hour call on May 19th. And following the conversation, Trump called for immediate ceasefire talks between Russia and Ukraine as a pathway to the end of the war, but it never happened. Kyiv's foreign intelligence chief stated that despite public statements about a ceasefire, Russia's strategic objective always have been and remains the same: full control over Ukraine and further expansions into Europe. But as of now, Russia is focused on taking complete control of Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, but lacks the capacity to do so. The spy chief warned that any temporary ceasefire is highly likely just a pause before renewed aggression.
They are exhausted, technologically, economically, and diplomatically. They want to buy time to regroup, but no one gives guarantees that this will be peace. If they used to dream of advancing 30 kilometers deep, now they dream of 5 to 10 kilometers. This will be another stage of preparation for a new strike. Oleg Ivashchenko, chief of Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Service, in an interview with Ukrinform.
So obviously more support for Ukraine, real action finally against the aggressor to end the war. While it has not breached into Europe, this is the way, the only one. As someone who has been born and raised in Latvia, it is a pleasure to give news like that. My country has delivered another 1,500 combat drones to Ukraine within the framework of the International Drone Coalition, Latvian Defense Minister Andris Spruds announced.
Another 1,500 combat drones are being delivered from Latvia to Ukraine. 2 Latvian companies will supply a total of 12,000 drones in the first half of the year under the coalition. Andris Spruds, Defense Minister of Latvia. In X social network.
He added in the comments that the drones were purchased using money from the Drone Coalition Fund, to which Latvia only contributed €5 million. The Drone Coalition was formed in February 2024 during the 19th Ramstein format meeting based on Latvia's initiative. Latvia and the United Kingdom now jointly coordinate the project. Currently 18 countries are part of the coalition: Latvia, the United Kingdom, Australia, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Estonia, Italy, New Zealand, Canada, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Norway, Poland, Germany, Sweden, Ukraine and the Netherlands. Meanwhile, the final batch of F-16 fighter jets promised by the Netherlands to Ukraine has left for Belgium, where they are being prepared for transfer. The Dutch Minister of Defense reports on that. In total, the Netherlands is handing over 24 F-16s.
This is a nostalgic moment. F-16s were a key part of our Air Force for decades. But as we transition to the F-35, I can't think of a better destination for these jets than Ukraine. Given Russia's daily airstrikes, F-16s are vital for Ukraine. They'll help counter Russian aggression. Ruben Breckelmann's Dutch defense minister during the farewell ceremony.
Germany plans to send all the model surface-to-air missiles for the Patriot air defense system to Ukraine, the Washington Post reports, citing a European diplomat who wished to remain anonymous. The shipment, including PAC-2 missiles, which are less effective than newer PAC-3 version, particularly against ballistic missiles. This delivery is part of a new German military aid package announced earlier by Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. In addition to the Patriot missiles, Berlin will also send 4 IRIS-T air defense systems. The systems are highly effective against cruise missiles, but are not quite designed to intercept ballistic threats. Returning to international support, Great Britain will provide up to $3 billion in military support for Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, funded by the revenue from Russian frozen assets. That is a lot of money indeed, and a lot of support from our British partners. This will significantly help in defending Ukraine throughout the year 2025. And we would like to tell you a story of a British volunteer who arrived to help people in Ukraine and got severely injured in a drone strike. His incredible story of recovery and rehabilitation will not leave you untouched.
Every
Every morning involves sessions with a physiotherapist, relentless exercises, and recovery through pain. Eddie Scott, a 28-year-old Briton, is steadily improving at a rehabilitation center after sustaining severe injuries from a Russian FPV drone strike. Just a few years ago, he was sailing the seas as part of a yacht crew.
It's fantastic. It's time at sea. You get into a very interesting routine, and you go slightly crazy, but in a good way. And you just focus on sailing, which is really nice, and which is what I really enjoy. I worked all over the world, primarily between the Mediterranean and the Caribbean. But I sailed all over the world: Brazil, South Africa, Indian Ocean. All over the place.
However, after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Eddie decided he had to help. Along with a few like-minded individuals, he purchased a pickup truck in the UK and headed to the war zone, marking the start of his volunteer work in Ukraine.
When the full-scale kicked off, I saw it as an opportunity to go and help, have a break from work, have a holiday, but also to try, do something good to help people that I felt were the victims of aggression.
In Ukraine, Eddie delivered drinking water and medical supplies to frontline towns and villages and assisted in evacuating civilians. For nearly 3 years, he helped in the most dangerous areas.
I started off delivering aid and clothing, fighting equipment to soldiers and civilians in Bakhmut, and then from there I started doing more frontline work. I delivered water to frontline towns, to Seversk, buildings that had been damaged by shelling. I jumped on the roof and put new tiles on them, so the people that were still living there could have a nice, safe, dry house.
In December 2024, during another evacuation mission, a Russian drone struck his vehicle, resulting in Eddie losing an arm and a leg.
So we were very aware of the fact that the drones hunt in pairs, and there was a good chance that we could get hit by a second drone. So my initial thought was we need to keep driving, and in doing that I was trying to turn the steering wheel. I had my left hand on the wheel, my right hand on the gear lever, and I was trying to turn the steering wheel, and I could feel my shoulder turning, but I could see my hand on the wheel not turning. And so I knew immediately that my arm was bad. And I saw my leg was shredded. It was just...
Despite his injuries, Eddie chose to stay in Ukraine. He says that even before the opportunity to undergo rehabilitation in Lviv arose, he knew he wanted to be here. After nearly 3 years in Ukraine, the country has become a second home for him.
I knew that this was where I wanted to be. I knew that this was where I would get the best, certainly the best mental care from being surrounded by friends and surrounded by people that cared about me. But then also I know that Ukraine has, unfortunately, a huge number of amputees, and so I would be getting good care in somewhere where they had experience with my kind of injuries.
Eddie now has a prosthetic leg and is gradually learning to move with it. Next, he will adapt to a prosthetic arm.
This is an amputation of both an arm and a leg, with the leg amputated at a high level. It requires a lot of energy because there are very few muscles, and consequently, little of the limb itself to control the prosthesis effectively. It's harder to maintain balance on 2 limbs and to walk long distances or on uneven surfaces.
After his recovery, Edward plans to continue helping Ukraine. After the war ends, he dreams of returning to his yacht and crossing the Atlantic under sail once again. Reported by Yulia Bill, Vadim Dmitriev from Lviv region, UATV News.
That seems to be it for today. Thank you so very much for watching our episode. You are important to us. So is your comment that matters, your share that we much appreciate, and your subscription we're craving because it helps us to be heard global. Thank you so very much. It was News Pulse. My name is Henry Keane and we are UATV English. See you at the next beat. Goodbye.